In this noble profession of automotive journalism, some days are more fun than others. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't necessarily enjoy reviewing the more practical side of the automotive industry, like SUVs and crossovers, but every once in a while, a real treat comes along. A treat such as this, the 2017 Mazda MX-5 Miata RF, or retractable fastback. Now, some of you might think it's a hairdresser's car, or it's too slow, not powerful enough, or a little bit too small and cutesy. Well, here's why all of you that I just mentioned are totally wrong. This is one of the most fun cars you can buy, if not the most fun. And today we're gonna find out why. Miata fans have been clamoring for a coupe version of the iconic Japanese sports car for a very long time, but as far as we know, this is as close as we're gonna get. The MX-5 RF, or retractable fastback, features a power-operated hardtop that folds into the rear tonneau cover in about 13 seconds or so, and can be done at speeds of up to 6 miles an hour. With the top fixed in place, the Miata actually does resemble a coupe, and that makes it a lot more elegant than its soft-top brethren. But bear in mind, a power hardtop does add about 120 pounds or so to the overall weight of the Miata. Still, if we're going in terms of curb appeal alone, I think this is the Miata that I would buy, especially finished in this awesome machine gray paint. Although red is always a tempting option as well. So this is the 2017 MX-5 Miata RF retractable fastback, and this particular one is the Grand Touring model, which is the top of the line. And what that basically means is that you get some nice wheels on it, you get a couple extra trim pieces, you get some leather upholstery seats with heat functionality, Bose audio system, and you have the option to get some safety features like blind spot monitoring, which actually comes in handy in this car, and there's a lane departure warning system as well, which can be a little bit annoying. Weirdly, there's no backup camera, but frankly, I'm okay with it. This car is so small that it's pretty easy to find where it begins and ends. All right, enough about all that crap. This is a Miata, so you want to know how it drives. Unfortunately, right off the bat, there's one big problem. And the big problem with this thing, well, is it's an automatic. I really wanted to get this car in a manual because a car this precise and mechanical really deserves a manual transmission, deserves for you to be able to row your own. And frankly, Mazda makes one of the best manual transmissions in the business. But having said that, this automatic, not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. It's probably about 60% as fun as the manual would be, but that's still pretty good. It's a 6-speed automatic, and you get paddle shifters, so when you pop it over into manual mode, you can control the gear selection by yourself, which makes it a little bit better on a back road. There's also a sport mode available as well, which sharpens up the throttle response, things like that. But frankly, this car doesn't even really need a sport mode. It is so much fun to drive in just its natural state. Truly fantastic. I mean, the handling is just so precise. The turn-in is fantastic. The steering inputs feel absolutely telepathic. I mean, if you haven't driven a Miata, there is nothing so fun in this world. I would much rather be driving a slow car like this one, fast, than a fast car, slow. Now, for those of you who think the Miata is a little bit too slow, well, you know what? You're right. But too slow, I think, is being a little bit harsh. Frankly, this car only weighs about 2,300 pounds in its soft top state. And adding the hard top like this adds about 100 to 150 pounds more, which frankly is usually the enemy of performance. But in the soft top, you had an issue where the rear end had a little too much wobble in it, a little too much play. And actually adding a little bit more weight with the hard top makes this thing feel a little bit more planted in the corners than it has in the past. And that makes it a little bit better to drive. The base 155 horsepower, 2-liter 4-cylinder, sure, maybe it could use a little bit more power, but honestly, when you're flinging it down a back road, it really doesn't matter. This thing is peaky, it likes to rev. It likes when you get into the lower gears and you really kind of get up to the top of the rev line. Honestly, it's just such a joy to drive. I pretty much haven't stopped smiling all day, and I don't think you will either if you get the chance to drive one. On top of it all, because it's such a small 4-cylinder and this car is so light, you'll get about 30 miles to the gallon sometimes on the highway. I've averaged about 28 miles per gallon over the course of city and highway driving, and that's fantastic for a small sports car. Makes it a little bit easier to justify the cost if you don't necessarily need to have one. So, how much does all of it cost, especially with the added additional hardtop there? Well, this particular car is about 35,000, but it starts at a little over 31,000, and that's kind of the sweet spot for this Miata. Don't add any of the optional extras, just get the base Miata with cloth seats and a hardtop, and you're gonna have a great time. So, while a little bit more weight might be the enemy of performance, it's not necessarily the enemy of fun. In fact, I think the hardtop version of the Miata is actually a little better to drive than its soft top brethren. And I like it better than the Fiat 124 Spider with which it shares a platform. If not only because I think the Mazda's engine is just a little bit more fun. But overall, if you have not driven one of these cars, go down to a Mazda dealership and do it as soon as possible, even if you don't intend to buy one. And if you can make any sort of room in your garage whatsoever for another car, a sports car that you can use on the weekends, honestly, the final answer should always be Miata. Sell your house, sell your kids. Okay, maybe don't sell your kids, but frankly, get behind the wheel of one of these as soon as you possibly can. I can't wait to do so again. Well, that's all for now. I'm Brian with the Daily News Autos, and we'll see you next time.